Hey everyone, it's Dr. Nic and Mike Sebastian, the Dream Team here with Divine Guidance Institute, Modern Day Mystery School, teaching you the ancient way of knowing so you never get blindsided again. Hey, happy Halloween! Glad you're here with us on this dark, festive day. Michael?
Lots of monsters around today. This is good. The monsters own Halloween. And somebody asked me earlier, man, why does it always rain on Halloween? I said because it's Halloween. That's what that's what the day is supposed to bring. So embrace it and go with the ghosts and the demons. And we're going to have a few demon stories for you and talk about the negativity and why it occurs on Halloween, and also how to protect yourself against the darkness. There's always a form of protection. And that's what we're going to talk about today. It'll be fun. Okay.
Yeah. Good point. First thing we're going to mention is how nightmares increase around Halloween. Yes, they do, and I'm going to give you some stats. The rituals of Halloween increase our collective nightmares. Halloween's negative images and costumes have a direct psychological connection to people's nightmares. Typical Halloween nightmare symbols. What are they? Monsters, weapons, aggression, and death. And studies show that frequent nightmares can be associated with higher levels of anxiety, depression, and insomnia. And here's one more for you. Nightmares, especially those induced by Halloween, can lead to increased stress and impact your heart health. And yes, of course, we're going to give you one magic word to deal with that stress and anxiety. Halloween nightmares, they often feature themes of fear and anxiety, reflecting the spooky and eerie atmosphere of the holiday, as Michael mentioned. What we focus on, we get more of. So, they spent $12 billion this year on Halloween. $12 billion. People are complaining they're broke and they're worried about inflation, yet they found a way to spend $12 billion just for today. Interesting, isn't it?
In other words, they all have outfits. They all go out and party and spend money and hit the bars and dance in the streets. It's off the scale. So here's why Halloween is a dark day. That's because, like Nick said, whatever we focus on. Another way of looking at it is we really, truly manifest our reality 100% of the time, which means we're responsible for everything in our life. Not most of the things, everything. So if we've got a lot of darkness, what happens is the consciousness of the people focus on this one day on all of the dark side. It's really that simple. So what do they draw to themselves? The darkness, the monsters, the negativity, the evil. It literally opens a door for ghosts and demons to step through and say, hey, hi, I thought you called me. Well, we did because we focused on it. That's how it works. And welcome to Halloween. All right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So nightmares increase around Halloween, and one magic word to stop them. Some of you that have been with us, you're familiar with this technique, and those of you just tuning in, we're happy to share it. One magic word is called the hue, H-U, hue. I'll give you a demo. You simply inhale, and on the exhale, you say hue, H-U, hue. You can do it eyes open, eyes closed, out loud, or silently. You can do it while you're doing the dishes or while you're sitting in a business meeting. And it is one magic word, truly, for stress, anxiety, insomnia, nightmares. Michael combat the PTSD from Vietnam with one magic word. That's how powerful it is. So we want to share that with you. It comes from the word human. The word human actually means God, man, God within man. It's in the Oxford English Dictionary, which is several hundred years old. And we found the word hue in 14 different religions and their sacred book. Yes. So there's your number one tool for Halloween and any other day of the year. Absolutely. We did an NBC TV interview a few years back. I had a client, and her daughter was seeing a ghost in the house. She said it was a little girl with messy hair and a dirty dress. And her little girl, she was about 4 or 5. She was really scared. She would not sleep in her bedroom. And so I'm talking to the client, and knowing the mechanics of how things work, I asked her, I said, what have you been into lately? I said, like Ouija board, tarot. Did you have a psychic reading? You know, she's like, oh my God, I had a psychic over 2 weeks ago. I said, bingo, bingo, bingo. The psychic came. The psychic had an entity or ghost, the words are interchangeable, attached to her. The psychic came, did the reading. The psychic went home, and the entity stayed at the house to bug on the little girl. You know, kids, they can see entities, ghosts, they can see auras. That's why they color outside the lines. All this kind of stuff goes on. So Michael and I, we do this NBC piece, investigative reporting. They did the before and after. They went to the house, they filmed the kids, the mom, us, part of a session, and using the tools, the one magic word, actually, the hue. And the bottom line, after that quick session, the little girl was sleeping sound in her bed that night. That's how quick it worked, and got rid of the entity. And there's actually a 4-step technique I'm going to share in a minute. I'm going to throw it to Michael here for a second. And then I'm going to share a 4-step technique that anyone can do to get rid of a ghost or an entity out of the house, out of the hotel room, out of your workplace. And you don't even have to be there. You don't have to be there to do it. Michael?
Yeah, and before Nick gets to that, if you're having nightmares, recurring nightmares, or maybe your kids are having nightmares, sit with them and rescript. Write the nightmare down. What does the monster look like? Where are you? What's going on? Who's there in the dream? And then rescript the dream. Literally, rewrite the dream in a journal. Rewrite it with a happy ending. You kill the monster. You fly away. You go somewhere else. But by rescripting that dream, literally everything is connected. It's called quantum entanglement, and it just is. That is the state of the state. And by rescripting the dream, you'll get rid of that nightmare. Suddenly it has a happy ending, and you'll notice it doesn't recur. It's gone away. It's really that simple. It is a great technique. And nightmares are there usually for a reason. Not usually, they're always there for a reason. They have a message for us. Or maybe we're focusing on negativity. Maybe we're using Ouija boards or seeing a psychic. And in many cases, that opens a doorway or a window for entities, whatever you want to call them, ghosts, demons. They will come through because you're going, oh, this is fun. I'm going to see how this works. And by doing that, you're focusing on it, and it allows those things vibrationally to come through and attach to your environment or to you. So there's the problem. Nick's got something for you now, and this is a really, really good protection technique. It works, as far as I know, 100% of the time. So,
as far as you know,
give it a shot. And I've used portions of it again. Afterwards, I'll do an addendum to Nick's presentation here and give you another example of it. So, Nick?
Yeah. It's really a 4-step technique. Like I said, it actually takes, if you do it in your imagination, your mind's eye, and it takes about 5 seconds to do this technique. And like I said, you don't even need to be home to do it. But I'm going to run it down for you. First, you visualize, okay? You hue up the place. So you hue up your house, you hue up the hotel room. You know, if you're renting a place and you just move in, you hue it up. So if you're there, you can literally hue, or you can see the little letters HU throughout the house or the apartment or the hotel room or your workplace. So you hue it up, Then you wrap it with white light. Just like you throw a scarf around yourself. Boom, boom, boom. You wrap the house, the room, the hotel, the workplace with white light. Then step 3, reverse mirrors. Now, what does that look like? All right, let's say you look at a mirror. You see a reflection of yourself. Well, what we're going to do, let's just use a house for an example. You're going to wrap the house in mirrors. The mirrors are facing outward. The house is within the mirrors. So if I'm looking at your house that's wrapped in reverse mirrors, all I'm going to see is a mirror and a reflection of myself. So the house is enveloped within the mirror facing outwards. Anything that comes toward the house bounces off the mirror. That's how the reverse mirrors work. Step 4, there's an invocation. You say, anything that is not of the light must leave. Anything that is not of the light must leave. 4 steps. You hue up the house. You wrap the house in white light. You wrap the house in reverse mirrors. And you say, anything that is not of the light must leave. Now, again, you can do this. You can physically be somewhere and do it, or you can be across the country and do it on your own home. Like I said, it's an imagination technique, but if you know anything about manifesting, and I'm sure most of the listeners, if not all of you guys, know about manifesting at this point in time, the secret's been around for a long time now. So whatever you think about is what we manifest. That's how it works from afar or a distance, so you don't have to be home. 5 seconds, boom, boom, hue it up, white light, reverse mirrors, anything that's not of the light must leave. Presto. Nothing can violate that invocation, and that is how the ghost or the entity literally must leave the space. After that invocation, it has to leave. It can't violate spiritual law. That's another topic, but just trust the process. And you don't need sage. You don't need a priest. You don't need an exorcism. Just the 4-step technique really does the trick. That we do know.
You know, in quantum physics, they state certain things are known, that everything is a vibration. All there is really at the quantum level, light and sound. When the atoms make movement, it's a sound, and that sound is hue. And the light, try splitting an atom, like when they did for the atomic bomb the very first time. If you don't have dark glasses on, it'll literally blind you. There's the light and the sound. And what we're using, Nick was talking about, those tools are really using either light or sound, and they're real. I mean, these aren't imaginary, cute techniques that may or may not work. They are very, very, very powerful, and they are very useful if we know how to work with them. And it's interesting because I had built a house back in the day, built a house out in the country in Texas, outside of Austin, maybe 35 miles. And it was an A-frame, nice little house. And I must have, where I built it, which I didn't know at the time, was over, the scorpions were living there in the earth somewhere because they kept coming into the house, these scorpions. So she was like 3 years old at the time. She'd wake up in the middle of the night, and I'd go, and she'd be crying. I'd go to see what the problem was, and she'd been bitten by a scorpion. My God, I couldn't get rid of them. I tried fumigating, all kinds of techniques. The scorpions lived there in the walls, whatever, and in the earth. They kept coming back in. So what I did was, one night I said to my daughter, I said, hey, I'm going to wrap your bedroom completely in white light. And she did it with me. And I said, just imagine white light wrapped around your bed. What's that look like inwardly in your imagination? And then I wrapped it for her. And you know what? After that, no more waking up in the middle. This had been going on for months. No more waking up in the middle of the night. No more scorpion bites. The white light protected her and kept the scorpions out. That's when I realized how powerful we can use the light and the sound. as a form of protection. So the next time you're having problems with anything negative, try wrapping it in that white light.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. You were just building that house in Texas, way out in the country. The dirt, the scorpions, that's their territory, man. The desert, and they love Texas. And they sting something awful. So it was pretty cool. You've been using your powers, Michael, for a long time, decades now. Before you even knew about certain things, you intuitively knew that you could create a net, an invisible net to keep the scorpions away. Your intuition, once again, folks, things that you think, even if you don't know why or how you know them, we could say trust that. That's why, the name of our book series is called Trust Yourself. It's the Trust Yourself System series. And it's right on the money, and it deals with your intuition, your superpowers, dreams, signs, and again, the hue to activate and intensify and amplify all of your powers. And so, Michael knew that technique without even knowing this technique. I mean, we're talking 40 years ago. I mean, these things weren't even discussed back then. So, but you knew.
I knew.
You
Yeah.
knew
And,
intuitively.
additionally, you can use the sound as well as the light. And the sound is very, very powerful. That's why we mentioned the hue. The hue will work and protect you against any negative influences. The sound literally wraps around you. And it's a frequency that works, and it's always there. It's simple quantum physics at a certain level, and the sound is very powerful. And if you open in the Bible to John 1:1, it says, "In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God." Well, you want to know what that word was that created the whole universe and beyond? Hue, H-U, real simple. Hue. Now think about that for a second. If that's the word that creates the universe, and you have that word, think about what you can do with that. It is the most powerful word in the universe. Sound literally can bring walls down, can destroy cities. I mean, at a certain frequency, it will just disrupt the fabric of existence.
Well, it was in the Bible, the Battle
Yep,
of Jericho.
yeah.
They used trumpets to bring
Walls
down
came tumbling down.
Yeah.
You got it. So, don't take it lightly. These are very, very, very powerful tools, and you can use them to protect yourself.
So let's talk a little more about energy, because we're talking about Halloween. Okay, we're talking about nightmares and ghosts and things, but the bottom line, entities are pervasive. They're 24/7, they're everywhere. Okay? And then we've got our own vibrations if we're feeling anxious or stressed or depressed. And here's a little example. You could be in a good mood, and then you decide to go to the grocery store, and everything's cool. And then you come home from the grocery store, and all of a sudden you're like melancholy or bummed out, or it's like, what the hell's going on? Well, what happened was the vibrations from other people at the store blended with your own, latched onto you in such a way that actually affected your state of consciousness, your mood, your vibe. And that is how simple it occurs. And we're talking 24/7. So it really pays to protect yourself on a daily basis, like even before you leave the house. You do your 4-step technique for yourself. You hue up yourself, you wrap yourself with white light, you wrap yourself with reverse mirrors, and you say anything that's not of the light must leave. Then you're wrapped and protected. Your auric field is protected and sealed, literally. Then you can go face the day. Because nowadays it is dark there. Out there, people, with the suicide, the depression, the mental health is the episode, the crisis, it's off the scale. So you got to protect yourself more than ever. And that technique, Like I said, you can use it for ghosts and entities, but just know that every time you're out in the world, you're blending with other people's energy. So you can use the 4-step to protect yourself and your kids. If they're 18 or under, you can use the technique on them. Once your child's an adult, you really don't want to violate spiritual law and their spiritual space, but as long as they're 18 and younger, as a parent, you have the right, but then it's also good to teach your kids these things. So when they're in the world, they can use these tools. Like we said, that little girl with the NBC TV clip after hewing, it was 4 months of not good sleep, and she was sleeping sound that night. So you can use this with your kids, no matter the age. And when they go off to school, school's a scary place nowadays. Craziness is going on. So, use these spiritual techniques if you're in the mood, if you're up for it. They are the real deal. That's why NBC came in before and after. It's not just Mike and myself talking about these things like, oh, doesn't this sound nice? No, NBC, they came in several times and did some investigative reporting before and after on the techniques and whatnot. So yeah, protect yourself, use the 4-step technique, use one magic word all the time, anytime. And let's see.
When you try it, you'll know it. You'll experience it. And that much I can guarantee. Everyone I've ever shared it with, they always, when I run into them again, they go, oh my God, it really, really worked. And some of these people were drop dead skeptics, but they try it and it worked. It always works. So, share the hue with other people, because there's a lot of people who, because of the mental health problems and depression and anxiety, they are suffering. So the hue will truly help them.
As a matter of fact, there was just a headline the other day. 2 million people in the UK are on the waiting list for mental health treatment. 2 million people are on the waiting list for mental health treatment. So that's why we call the hue the name of our book is actually 1-Step Therapy. Just say hue, the universal panacea for all that ails you. So definitely, if you know someone, share that technique. And what was I going to say? Oh, nightmares, real quick. So Michael gave you a rescripting technique. Change the ending, and voila, no more nightmare. Of course, certainly the hue technique. The other thing I wanted to mention, wait a minute, it's escaping me. Hang on. Nightmares. Oh, sleep paralysis. There we go. Let's leave you with this. I had a client with sleep paralysis. We had our first session, and she said she has these episodes probably 3 times a week. And I said, and she was going to go for sleep testing and all of this. And I said, that's all great. I said, in the meantime, the next time you have an episode, which might even be tonight, I said, I want you to think the word hue, because your sleep paralysis, you can't speak, you can't talk, you can't move. All she could do is think. I said, I want you to think the word hue. I said, most likely it's going to pull you right out of your sleep paralysis state. I said, so let's try that, and I'll talk to you next Monday. We were doing once-a-week sessions. Anyway, next Monday rolls around. She said, well, I had 2 episodes this week, and you know what? I said, what? She said, the hue worked instantly. The minute I had my episode, I thought the word hue, H-U, and it pulled me right out of sleep paralysis, Dr. Nic. She was blown away by this. So, we're talking powerful stuff. And what is it? Michael mentioned it. It's simply changing the vibration, changing our state of consciousness. That's how and why it works so fast. So I think we'll leave you with that on this wonderful Halloween evening. And let's see, you got anything before I close, Mike?
Just remember that life can either be a nightmare, or you can use the tools and certainly use the hue, and suddenly life becomes a bright, joyous experience.
Wow. All right. That sounds good. So, hey guys, alrighty. If you want to get a hold of us, just go to the website, divineguidanceinstitute.org. divineguidanceinstitute.org. Shoot us an email, share the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, hit us up on social media. We've got our do-it-yourself books. You can purchase the books at the website. You can donate to the cause, and it is a big deal. It's a public crisis we're fighting here, the mental health public crisis and the blindsided public crisis. These are really big deals. And we'll catch you next time on the podcast. Hey, have a good week.
Yeah, take care, guys. Have a good one.